is the only rational position to take. You can't have a position where at one point in the past there was absolute nothing and then something came. Because absolute nothingness cannot make something. It has no energy, it has no existence of its own, it cannot do anything. It's like saying, for example, you, while you are nothing, can give yourself life. You can't, because you are nothing to begin with.
I just think that the fact that there is matter in existence I guess one plausible, like one theory is that, well, it's because it was consciously created, or it could be
you're jumping to the second and third, fourth questions. The first question to understand is whether something always existed or not. Because there are many people who will be surprised they don't see the rationality of that problem that we are facing. Either something always existed, or there was at that point absolute nothingness. Absolute nothingness is not a rational position to take. Because from absolute nothingness, we should have absolute nothingness. But if you are something now, there has to be always something. Do you agree to that? Then we can move on.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I have always thought that myself, you know.
Good. So there was always something. But now, the question now is, if this is always something, it could be our universe, or it could be the causes of our universe, or the causes of that universe. It can just go on and on and on how much you want, right?
Yeah.
We need to have an explanation in terms of transformation and change that happens. Does it happen by conscious will, or it just happens? Just happens. Which one seems to be sensible by understanding and analyzing the data within our cosmos?
I mean, I feel like it's a constant transformation.
That transformation to happen either just happens, or it happens because of a willing agent who is self-aware, driving that change and transformation, driving that assembly together. You know, when the sun cells are coming together in the embryonic form, they just move together and aggregate in one place to form the tissue of the heart. They don't go there to make the stomach. The cells that are going to make the tissue of the heart, they aggregate to make the heart.
What's the argument and what's the evidence for this conscious?
No, it's not about argument and evidence. We're trying to understand, could it be no conscious agent, no willing agent that is involved within this process, or is there a conscious willing agent? These are the two broader alternatives. You don't need the third one, these are broader alternatives. We can analyze each one. If there is no conscious agent, willing agent to make the transformation, why do we expect any transformation in the first place? There should be no transformation. You see, the laws of physics, if something is moving, it should keep on moving, unless there's another force to stop it from moving. It should just keep on going and going and going. If something is changing to something, organizing, cells of a heart and tissue, if something is organizing something, we need to understand, is it just simply happening without a cause, intelligence behind it? Or there is a causal explanation for it, which is an agent of will and self-awareness?
I guess there can be these changes that happen, and the cause is the reaction between themselves, rather than...
Reactions to happen, these rules and laws need to be in place. The rules came together in place to form this reaction. When you have an hydrogen and oxygen and you just make a spark and you put them together, you get water from it. But to have that rule there to begin with, needs an explanation. How do you have a rule there? Every time you have H2 and O, H2O, right, and you do this spark and then water forms, this universal principle that we now have discovered and observed, how do I explain that? If I keep on throwing plastics, Zishan's mic and his glasses and his very fancy watch, and just bang in a warehouse, do I expect the next generation iPhone to happen? It's not going to happen. It will never happen. Even if I, have some of this intelligent assembly, like this has alarm or chronograph and lots of other things, right? If this microphone capturing sound, transmitting over there, if I keep on throwing this, I create an explosion in a warehouse. Do I expect a nice car, which is Tesla, for example?
We know the conscious thing that's driving that change in that sense.
So So how do we then assign to our cosmos an unconscious, not self-aware agency, saying no agency, no will involved, and yet transformation and assembly happen? I mean, how would you explain that to our friend Marco here?
The thing is, you know, Marco, what would be interesting to think about here is forces. When you look at forces, a lot of people, when they say the universe came by itself, it's actually, like the brother was saying, it's a logical impossibility, because you're presupposing that a universe exists for it to create itself.
Yeah.
So to say, oh, the universe created itself, or it came from nothing, presupposes that there is a universe. Then they go to deifying forces. Like you're alluding to sometimes with chemicals and certain things, but if you actually analyze, like the theory of arithmetic, if I've got 1,000 in the bank, then I put another 1,000 in the bank. Arithmetic tells me I've got 2,000, but it doesn't create the money in the first place. Me moving a billiards ball, physics can tell me the laws of motion, but it doesn't cause the ball to move. So forces are descriptive and prescriptive, they are not creative. So this is, I think, a bit of a cop-out when sometimes, and that's why I think Terence McKenna said that, you know, science or scientists, they want the first miracle, that matter and space and energy came from nothing. Yeah, and then we want to explain now from there everything else. So I think that's what Mansur was trying to emphasize, that it is that first miracle that we don't want to give that away for free. We want that emphasis, and we want to get to the root of that, because you were saying you want to...
And I am certain that we all know that there is a root there. We all know that there is an explanation, whatever their explanation may be. I would like to see a slightly broader offering than, well, I don't know. I would like. I've heard the conscious creator. I've heard that. I frankly would like to hear some.
What other options are there?
Well,
A self-aware, self-conscious, willing agent, and something that is.
Why is it so binary? Why have you stopped? Why have we stopped at those two?
Okay,
offerings?
give me some other explanations.
I'll go away. Well, I mean, I guess let me go away and think.
Okay, Marco, let me help you. Rather than you going away, let me help you. And feel free to stop me whenever you want. Yeah, and push back. So on the one hand, when people say I want evidence, they say, and it's pretty much limited to empirical evidence.
I should have said I wanted evidence. I just said I wanted a broader offering of possibilities.
But a broader offering of possibilities is predicated on evidence, isn't it? And there's different forms of evidence, and there's different branches.
I guess you can have it. You can have. Yes. Yeah.
So on the one hand, somebody would say empirical evidence. I'm not saying yourself. But on the other hand, when we're talking about religion, we say, look, empirical evidence, ontological evidence, and rational and philosophical evidence as well. So let's talk rationality, because I'm sure you'll agree when it comes to science, it can't answer why questions. Yeah, it doesn't tell us what consciousness is. It can't explain what free will is. It doesn't explain morality. I mean, science washes its hands when it comes to morality, free will, consciousness. Are we in agreement with that, isn't it? Yeah. So because of that now, we need logic, we need rationality, we need philosophy. That's why, I mean, when things were stripped, Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. That's what, at the bare bones, that's what things were stripped to. Yeah, I exist, you exist, right? So when you exist, then you look around, you look for order. Yeah, uniformity, regularity, stability. Like, why are trees not floating away? Why are cars not, just randomly combusting and exploding? Because there is some stability. That then begs the question, as we've agreed, that there then is a necessary being that is at the end of that chain of dependent things. But now we arrive to that point that, okay, what are the qualities of that necessary being? Mansur said there has to be a will, because if we have emerged at a period of time, yeah, and we didn't emerge before this necessary being. So if it's emerging at a specific time and no one's telling the necessary being what to do with us, it's a will. Yeah, I'm sure this logically making sense that us being here, the creation being here, we were created at a specific moment in time, there is will. That being also needs power as well. Yeah, there is power. The fact that that power doesn't randomly switch off and switch on and other beings can come in, that means that power was there forever. Yeah, for it to be the end of the chain. Feel free to stop me when you think
Well,
I'm...
no. Like, this is. I was far from wanting to stick my head in the sand away from this question, away from the go. The bag's come off. This food's great. Oh yeah, what's that? No, I'm not going to wonder how I got here. I mean, it's obviously I don't want to do that. But I feel like, why is this? So the extreme focus on the very, very beginning, or even what comes after, if you believe something that comes after. Like, what? My philosophy is that basically I'm saying that I don't know why the focus is so much on this issue when in all likelihood, like, I mean, are we ever going to, in your lifetimes, are we going to have a definite answer on this one?
Of course.
Marco, you know why that's such an important question? Because that then is predicated on the root of our morality. Because as human beings, we have to live morally.
I feel like I'm very morally aware, and I'm able to do that without too much contemplation as to how we've come to be here or what will come to happen to me after I die. I think that it's perfectly possible to live well and morally without spending an awful lot of time on this particular issue.
All right, Marco. If I was to slap Mansur on the shoulder, is that good or bad?
Well, it depends on context.
Well, you just saw me. I slapped him, and you've asked me, like, what would you say to me? Is that good or bad?
Well, I'd say it's context dependent. We've all had,
But you're seeing the
context.
context.
You walk out of somewhere, you've had a great time with your buddy, you slap him on the back, and bloody hell, that's brilliant, wasn't it? That was great. You slapped him on the back.
I didn't say that though. I just did that just like now.
Oh,
Is that good or bad?
Well, I'd say it's probably pretty innocuous, and it doesn't really need too much contemplation. I mean, it would be interesting to know your motivations. I guess a slap on, what was the rationale behind your action?
I just wanted to slap him.
You wanted to slap him, okay?
Yeah.
And I guess if you wanted to get into that, we'd say,
Thank
was that
you,
bad
Zishan.
for you? Did you like that?
no, I didn't.
You didn't like it? Please, would you not do that to Mansur again?
But why is it bad?
Yeah.
He likes it.
Well, I
Maybe.
mean, I guess we all just have to be. We are free to go about our lives and do and think and do what we think is best, as long as it doesn't encroach on other people too bad. We need to be aware of where our actions encroach on the lives of other people or other.
Where did that metric come from? And why is that metric better than my metric?
Your metric is I should
My
be able
metric
to
is
do
I should
whatever
be,
I want.
If pleasure more than pain, like Bentham said.
Pleasure. Well, I guess what we could do.
Why would you restrict his pleasure in hitting me, for example?
Well, I mean, we'd then have to say, well, why? Where does your pleasure? What pleasure do you arrive from hitting?
It gives me a dopamine release. That physical contact just makes me feel in charge.
Okay. Well, do you want to live in a world where people can do that if they want? Do you want to live in a world where people are free to do whatever they want, free of?
I don't care about other people.
You don't care about other people, and do you think that's the kind of society that you'd like to live in?
I don't care about society. I care about myself, my pleasure, my pain.
Okay, so you happily live in a. They have to be in a physical place. That matter that we've discussed has to be in a physical place.
He lives like a Brazilian drug lord, quite happy.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, and enjoys his life by exploiting people and whatever that
Yeah.
needs to do.
Yeah, so
why
do you think
why is his morality
rules-based
not?
order is something that you're
So
going to
is he doing a moral thing?
Because you know what, you love to slap people on the shoulder, but you can't do that if someone's
So
done something.
why are you
to
saying
you
it is
to limit
immoral?
if someone's arbitrarily incarcerated you, for example, and your hands are tied behind your back. You won't be able to go around enjoying yourself slapping people on the shoulder because, well, you'll be tied up. So, so you want to enjoy the freedom
So how
of
can
being
you prove that, like theoretically, that we can then mass produce that theory to other people?
We've come pretty far, haven't we? I mean, look, we've done pretty bloody well at civilizing ourselves. I mean, the world, the way that we live now is very different to the way that humans have lived for the majority of our
How long
history.
ago was communism in Russia? Not too long ago.
No, we've got a lot of stuff in our recent history.
So
yeah.
we only learned within the last 100, 200 years, you're saying? Are you saying we've learnt enough?
And it's not perfect. No, I'm not saying
Right.
we have.
So we keep on learning. That means we haven't got the right moral guidance yet. Because 200
Well, we're
years
doing our
ago,
best and we're working
100 years ago, 200 years ago, in communist Russia, they thought they had their upper moral ground. And look what happened. Look how many people, how many thousands of people suffered because of that. So if you were thinking about, we're pretty much now there already, we're here in our moral understanding of what makes moral and so on, I would say we're probably not even there yet, because that's what people thought 100 years ago. And 100 years later,
we
that's what
learned
they
from
will
that.
tell us.
And Marco, what's interesting is, sorry to cut you, you said we're doing pretty much now. We're doing pretty much better now. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'd say at least in the realm of what people can freely do to other people.
Like invading Iraq and Palestine
Indeed.
and
Like-
Syria, lots of countries looting all their wealth from Africa, from Asia. Are we doing pretty well?
I mean, in what we've come to, we were just talking about we were talking about personal freedoms and the ways that we can act towards one another in a day-to-day setting, and what you can do with impunity.
Our personal freedom seems to be very much restricted by our political freedom, by our politicians. What they're doing, they're invading a whole country for greed because of oil and gas.
Yeah.
So we haven't come anywhere near to the good moral
Oh hell, definitely
standard.
not. About to say we've definitely. We're just
So what
seeing
was
this-
your question about morality then? Are you saying the morality is not something that should be grounded on our own personal feelings, but rather
Yeah, it should be objective. It should come objectively. Because the thing is, Marco, I could see the sincerity in what you were saying, but let's face it, it's not going to really get far. There's no metric. What you are referring to is it's by Kant, the categorical imperative. But we know the categorical imperative of Kant breaks down. It's pretty much what you said, which is that if you extrapolate something to other people, would you mind if that happened to other people, if other people started doing that, would that be conducive for society? That's what you were saying. But then the point, and it breaks down to lying, that if a woman is at home and her husband's at home and she opens the door and there's a killer outside and her husband's inside and the killer asks her, is your husband at home? According to Kant and according to the morality that you put forward, she's not allowed to lie. Because if she lies, then other people can lie, and then that's bad for society, therefore she can't lie. And that's where it breaks.
I guess
What do you think about that?
I guess lying is context dependent, isn't it? Really, lying. If a lie, like everything, like the slap on the shoulder, like you can't. There's no one answer for something like a lie because it's so context dependent. Go for it, yeah.
So but the only issue with that now, Marco, is what you may determine as a white lie, I'm going to determine as a serious lie. Let me give you an example. You go home late.
I didn't say it was a white lie. I just said that there's
Yeah,
lies
no
in
worries,
context.
no worries. Yeah, we're not going to hold you to that, don't worry. So in the sense that, can we agree on this point that gradations of lying is subjective to people? What I deem as a little white lie, you will deem as a serious lie. Can we agree on that?
I guess we'd have to. I guess
can
people might
explore
judge
that
things
more if you
differently.
want, yeah.
But I'd be surprised if there was. I'd be surprised if there was an example of a lie where one person thought it was minuscule and the other person thought it was major.
Okay, so if I asked my friend, how are you? Yeah, and my friend tells me he's fine.
Yeah.
However, he's lying. He's actually, going through some madness at home, and he's told me everything's fine just to throw me off the scent. And then there came a chance that he was very close to being suicidal, and he could have taken his life. Because of that one lie that he said, and I turned away and didn't enter his house, his life could have gone. Can you see now? To him, he just wants to get away. He just wants me away, because for him, he's just thinking subjective.
I'd agree that I think that most people would be thinking that was, a serious situation.
But for him, he's just seeing in terms of he thinks in his head, I'm going to die anyway, it's a short existence. But again, whether you see in terms of lying, whether you look in terms of time, whether you look in terms of culture, Marco, there's just so many variables that one has to take into consideration whether one lie is justified and one lie is not justified. Let me give you the example of Boris Johnson, the very Prime Minister of our country. He even now, barefaced, telling people that, you know what, I didn't go against the lockdown rules. What I did was justified. Sunak is defending him. But I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, even according to a YouGov poll, people are saying it was a lie. It was anti common sense. It just went against what we believe in, what we believe to be true. But that man simply cannot accept that. And he's convinced that he's correct and he's right. Why? Because it's the same like a child. You've asked him and he will lie. Again, a white lie. If your wife asks you, "Oh, do I look fat in this?" What if she genuinely wants your opinion so she can go to the gym? But you lie because you don't want to hurt her feelings. Again, there's just so many things. But again, Marco, this is what it comes down to. And this is what you said at the start, that look, I want to look at the bigger picture, I want to look at the bigger thing. And I'm saying, Marco, you actually can't do that. Why? Because in the society that we're living in at this moment in time, you can go on the street and you can ask people, what is a woman? And I promise you, I swear to everything that's holy, you will not get consistent answers on this. What is a woman? You're not. In fact, if that's recorded and it goes online, you can lose your job. If on camera you say anything about the vaccines, you can lose your job. If you question any historical aspect about the Holocaust or 9/11, you can lose your job. This video will be censored. So the point that I'm trying to say is, all of these things about you can say this, you can't say that, is all predicated upon morality. And that morality needs a basis, it needs a foundation. What is right, what is wrong? And simply saying, oh, whatever you feel is right or well, that's what the example was.
No, but I mean, I guess the idea of a creator, if we're coming back to that, I mean, I think a religion is a set of moral guidelines, and that's a good thing to take. You know, it's a way to live that should be a good way, a morally just way. Fine. So yeah, I mean, we're not disagreeing that wherever you get your morality from.
What we're saying is, morality necessarily follows when you necessarily accept there's a necessary being. Mentioned 3 times.
When
there has to be a necessary being who is the cause of our existence. That
in order for us to be able to have a morality,
no. What I'm saying, because we exist, something exists. There will be something that exists always, and that has to be the necessary being, because everything that you see is contingent and dependent. The thing that all of these things will depend on will be that thing that will be not dependent. That is the necessary being. That necessary being, because being is not something like a person yet, right? This necessary being will have certain characteristics and properties and attributes, like self-awareness, like will, like power. This is something that will follow logically and rationally.